What is going on, Pats Nation? It's Patriots Global here, back with another video, and in this one, I want to talk about Trey Nixon. Now, we talked slightly about Trey Nixon in our live streams. We talked slightly about Trey Nixon in his draft profile video, which you can check out along with every other draft profile for the Patriots 2021 draft class. If you guys want to check that out, it is a playlist on my channel. But is he going to make the Patriots roster? That's what we are going to talk about today, guys. Make sure that you hit that like button. It helps me and the channel out tremendously, along with hitting that subscribe button for all of your New England Patriots news. And hit that bell notification if you want to get notified for every single video I post so that you are not late. If you guys would also like to get in on the Patreon bandwagon, go ahead and get on that, guys. I'll pin it in the comment section below. It's also in the description box. You guys can get exclusive content from me, get put in a Patreon-only Discord chat with me and other Patreon Patriots members. Basically where we talk about, Patriots and our lives and just real-time updated news. And I'm also going to be adding a new benefit where once or twice a month, we are going to be watching a Patriots game from the previous or current season. So go ahead and check that out. It is the best way to support the channel, and you get something back, $10 a month. It's like you're getting Netflix or you're getting Hulu, something like that. You support me. You support the channel, but you also get something out of it. So appreciate you guys, but without further ado, Trey Nixon. Now, Trey Nixon, for those who don't know, a little bit of a rundown here. 7th round wide receiver by the New England Patriots this past draft. He does bring a little bit of an above, or not above average height, but for a guy that's in the 7th round compared to what the Patriots usually get, 6 foot, 190 pounds. Not a bad size. Not a bad length. Does look a little bit smaller on the field. You love if he can bulk up just slightly more, but hey, he isn't going to be your, Demir Bird or Philip Dorsett. He's a little bit bigger. He also did sign his contract, so he will be under contract through 2024, meaning that in 2025, he will be an unrestricted free agent, of course, if he does make the Patriots roster. It is also worth noting that this was actually the Ernie Adams selection. Before he decided to retire, Belichick gave him a parting gift by saying, you know what, last pick in this year's draft, Ernie, you go ahead, you pick the guy that you want, and this is who he selected. Now, a lot of people wanted New England to go ahead and select a receiver much earlier in this year's draft. People wanted Belichick to get a receiver the draft prior in 2020, and he didn't select one at all. Truthfully, if it was not for Ernie Adams, Belichick likely would not have drafted a receiver for the second straight draft. And a lot of people want to ask yourself, well, why is that? Why does Belichick not draft a wide receiver? We needed that. Well, Belichick did go out in free agency. He did add a lot of pieces. Belichick is the type of guy that I just don't think he trusts himself. I don't think he really trusts his coaching staff either in just being able to draft these receivers. You look at the history, it's not great. They have not hit on a lot, about 90% of these wide receivers. And that is why Belichick likes to go out and trade for guys, maybe in contract year. He likes to go out and sign free agents. That is how Belichick gets his guys, UDFAs, so that he isn't having to waste draft capital on a guy that he knows that they haven't been able to develop throughout the years. Now, obviously, we can't say too much about OTAs. Only one has been open to the media. And either way, it's just OTAs. They're fast-paced walkthroughs, essentially, which is what this is. They're not evaluating these guys. They're just trying to teach these guys right now. Now, we did see that Trey Nixon was there at some point of OTAs, but the day that it was open to the media, Trey Nixon was not there. And we did hear that he is dealing with some type of injury. From what we heard, from what we understand, it sounds like a leg to thigh injury. Don't know how serious it is. I don't expect it to be anything crazy. We'll just have to see how that goes. I also believe that, look, if Trey Nixon does not end up making this roster, Belichick could potentially ghost an injury. Guys that have these so-called injuries early on sometimes seem to bounce back at the end of the season, ironically, right when the team has to get down to 53 players, but Belichick wants to see these guys back, but doesn't want them to go against the 53-man roster, so he kind of ghosts them with an injury, puts them on IR so that they can compete for a roster spot the following year. Now, while I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, that is definitely something to watch, as we've seen Belichick do this several times in the past. Now, he did spend about 2 years with Ole Miss, so he does have definitely a good amount of college tape on his resume. And then he ended up going to UCF, where he ended up starting about 27 games over a 3-season span. And then he appeared in a combined 40 games and caught 109 passes for 1,671 yards and 13 touchdowns. He had a really good 2019 season. It looked like 2020 was going to be his season, his breakout season. He ended up showing up pretty well in their first game of the season. In the first 2 quarters of that game, he was able to catch 4 passes for 94 yards and a couple of touchdowns. But then unfortunately, the second half of the game, he did have to leave due to injury. He ended up dealing with a broken collarbone, which kept him out for most of the season. He was able to return in about late November and was able to play in the final 3 games of the year, but was not able to establish himself at that point, which does make sense because the offense kind of had to deal without him. They had to build their chemistry and keep the ball rolling, keep the games going without him and adapt without him. So he ended up just adding 15 more receptions in those 3 games for 166 yards and finished the season with 19 total catches for 260 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, while 2020 was definitely plagued to him by these injuries, that was not the only struggle for him. He also struggled with consistency, and that is the big problem with Trey Nixon, that big question mark of consistency in the receiving game. Now, he did get redshirted the redshirted senior year. He registered 5 drops on 25 targets that were catchable balls according to Pro Football Focus. Because of these consistency issues, because of the question marks on the drops and the question marks with injury, that is what was dropping him significantly. What he's going to bring to the Patriots is speed. Ernie Adams didn't go the classic Belichick route with getting a guy who can, catch contested balls, or a guy who plays in the slot and just works with short area quickness and cuts. That's not what he does. He's going to be your Philip Dorsett. He's going to be your Damiere Byrd. And honestly, I think that is where he projects. I think that is his ceiling. That is the area that we could see him end up being at some point, is going to be that role that we've seen the Patriots kind of have over the last few years on so many occasions. Philip Dorsett and Damiere Byrd. The size, the build, it's not bad. He doesn't go in that 5-foot range, but he isn't anything crazy. He isn't anything that's going to help you out height-wise. He's 6 foot, so maybe he can match up a little bit better, of course, than these 5-foot guys like a Damiere Byrd or whatnot, but still nothing crazy. He's not going to give you the advantage height-wise, but he's going to give you the advantage when it comes to his speed, and that's why he's going to play on the outside. In college, that's what he did. He played on the outside. He wasn't a slot guy. He always played on the outside, and more specifically, on the right side. He's going to be someone who uses his straight line speed as a deep threat. He isn't going to be someone who works too well in that mid or short to mid range of the offense. He's going to be someone that just runs down the field and gets open because he's quick. So with that, of course, being said, his route tree, it's pretty limited, and that brings concern to me because of the very complicated playbook that the Patriots have. Now, look, they're going to work on that with him significantly all offseason. They are going to work on that route tree with him heavily. So I do expect that to be improved, but how improved is it going to be by the start of the season? I think that's all dependent on him. Now, the Patriots do need another outside guy next to Nelson Agholor. Agholor, of course, is going to be on one side of the field. You need another guy on the outside. Now, of course, is Trey Nixon the guy you want to put out there? No, but Kendrick Bourne, he does have experience on the outside, but he's more of a slot. Jacoby Myers, can he play on the outside? Sure, but he is also more of a slot. The Patriots need a true outside guy, and Trey Nixon's probably going to be as close to that as they can get. Because obviously, look, N'Keal Harry, it's just not panning out, and will he be on the roster at the start of the season? We'll just have to see. Overall, Trey Nixon is definitely going to be fighting for a roster spot. This is not going to be a situation where if he's not looking good or he's dealing with injuries all offseason, he's just magically going to make the roster. He's drafted in the 7th round. He's not drafted in the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, so there is no reason that he is a lock to make this roster. I think the best way for him to make this roster is on special teams. Unfortunately for him, he does not have much experience in that area, but Belichick, the coaching staff, they try every single guy. Doesn't matter what position you're at, but they try you on special teams. More specifically, though, the kicking game. If he can show that he can use that speed and that he can field these kickoffs and be careful with the ball and show that he has ball security, I think that's how he makes the roster. I think he has all the intangibles to be able to do so. He has the speed. He has good ball vision. But the question mark is going to be, can he make that transition to special teams? Patriots don't currently have a kick returner. They have a punt returner in Olszewski. But if he can be that kick returner for New England and then he can develop over time as a receiver, I think that is his best way at being a future Patriot, at continuously making this roster, is kind of taking that route that a Gunnar Olszewski did. Gunnar Olszewski came in here, as a former cornerback, turned into a wide receiver, but he made this team as a return man. More specifically, as a punt returner, and he's just developed as a wide receiver as the years have went on. I think another area that I really haven't heard anybody talk about is that he's going to have competition for that last roster spot, okay? If you haven't heard the name Isaiah Zuber, y'all better start checking that off your bucket list, because let me tell you, when the offseason comes around and we're talking more so about training camp and not just these OTAs, it is going to be a battle for that last roster spot. Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, Jacoby Myers, Gunnar Olszewski, Matthew Slater, these guys are essentially all locks to me. That last spot, though, is going to be very dependent on potentially another trade or another late addition. But I do know that last year the Patriots did like Isaiah Zuber. He was elevated from the practice squad. He showed some ability on offense, on end arounds. He's another guy who brings speed. He got a little bit into the passing game, also nothing crazy, but he showcased that speed on several occasions and does already have a year within the Patriots system. That could be an issue here for Trey Nixon, as he serves as kind of that same role as Zuber does. Unfortunately, odds do not look great for Trey Nixon, especially because he's going to have to beat guys like N'Keal Harry, who are experienced, guys like Isaiah Zuber, who are very similar to his play style and also experienced. He cannot, and I repeat, cannot come into training camp slow. He's got to try his best not to deal with any injuries and stay in camp as much as he can, and has to show that ball security, but most importantly, got to show that ability on special teams. If he can do that, then he's going to be able to squeeze his spot on this Pats roster. Before we end this video off, though, I do want to talk about the sponsors of this video real quick, betonline.ag. Now, BetOnline has the fastest and the easiest ways to bet on all of your sports action. Football might be over, but NBA, college basketball, and the NHL is still a full swing. BetOnline even covers awards, TV shows, and reality TV with real-time updated odds and props on almost anything you can imagine. It's completely free to sign up. All you guys got to do is head to the website or use your mobile device right now to receive a 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Don't sit on the sidelines anymore. Get in with the action. Don't forget to use that promo code CLNS50 to receive a 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. But this is my thoughts on Trey Nixon, a little bit about him and the battles that he is going to face. What are your guys' thoughts, though? Let me know in the comment section below. Remember to leave a big like on this video and subscribe to the channel for all of your New England Patriots news. But like always, I appreciate you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.